Hey everyone, and welcome to A Question to the Teacher. In this series, we're going to ask and try to answer some of the questions that I wish I would have known to ask when I was starting out teaching. And here's our question for the day. Hey everyone, today's question comes from a teacher training I did last week. One of the teachers asked, I'd like to change my classroom around to try to make some of my activities more interesting. What do you recommend? Well, a lot of the times when we think that our classroom is a little bit lackadaisical or the energy is low or students seem bored, we often assume that it's the activity that's boring. And it could be. Sometimes our activities do get boring for our students, but I found that most of the time it's us who are bored with the activity. Teachers get bored with the activity. You know, a lot of teachers teach the same thing again and again and again, right? I recycle 5 lessons in an entire day. So by the end of the day, I've taught that activity 5 times. And if I recycle it with a different grade, it might be 10 times during a week. So I often feel like, geez, I'm really bored of this activity. The students must be too. And over the course of my career, I found out that's not really the case. Most students only get about 10 minutes of actual activity time for something that we do, whereas we're doing it for 10 hours a week and it seems like overkill. So one thing that I recommend doing is changing the seating arrangement or changing the location of where students do things. Think about it. If you're doing the same activity with the same people in the same seating arrangement in the same spot of the classroom, it's going to get boring. Even if you change the activity, it's going to get boring. So in this video, I want to show you a few different arrangements that you can use that can add some novelty to these activities and really stretch out a good idea into a great one. So take a look and see which one you like the best. The following are some techniques for laying out your classroom for specific activities, right? You want to try to create layouts of seatings and desks that facilitate and encourage communication in some of your more common activities. And the first style is used for debates or discussions. A debate or discussion usually involves 2 or more opposing viewpoints. So one of the best ways to really visualize this is with a House of Parliament divide, with 2 ranks of seats, right, facing each other. It's not suitable for general use as it deliberately seeks to stir argument and disagreement, an us versus them, but it can be fun for the whole class to get some face time with one another and to hear the ideas in a whole class setting. In the real world, it's very rare to have a conversation with somebody sitting side by side, right? When we talk to each other, when we have social interactions or conversations, we often turn to face one another. And this is really hard to do in the traditional rows or columns type of seating. So here are a few ideas to change that seating arrangement. You could try making railway carriages, where you separate blocks that have 4 or 5 seats facing a similar 4 or 5 seats. Think of a railway or a subway car or even some modern day buses. This is one of the most common ways that people sit facing each other. Or you could have airplane seating. Now the difference between this and the traditional rows is that there's no desk. So students can very easily shift their body and look face to face. In addition, it also teaches conversational manners. When you're sitting close to somebody, when you're sitting face to face, you want to use the proper conversational tone and the proper conversational volume. So this trains students to be a little bit more quiet and a little more polite when they're talking to their partner. Or you could arrange seats in a rectangle around an imaginary swimming pool. The good part of this is it removes the physical barrier of a desk. Sometimes students who are sitting behind a desk feel like they can hide behind it and don't feel the need to engage with the other people in the conversation. When you remove that physical barrier, you also remove a mental barrier. Some activities, like designing solutions, making plans, simulations, mock elections, require students to work together in groups to prepare their own ideas before coming back together for a meeting or a discussion. The more dramatic the separation between different groups in the preparation stage, the more it might encourage a team spirit and urge to compete against the other team. Distance really does build drama in groupings. So You might be able to put them in different corners of the room. You might be able to put them at the front and the back, or you might even build a little physical barrier, like a partition that they can say, this is our space. This is our group's area. Don't come in. If you want to try to make things a little bit more professional, like it would look in a meeting or a presentation or even an oral report back, you might want to try one of these. The boardroom setting is where you pull all the desks or tables together to make a single large boardroom table, which everyone sits around. Now, the chairs could be on the outside of this circle, or if you want to make it a little more intimate, you can put just 1 or 2 desks and have everyone sit around those. I like that way because everyone can see the materials that are in the middle of the desk. Role plays and simulations set in offices, houses, and other buildings are often difficult to do in a class because your class doesn't look like an office, it doesn't look like an airport, and it doesn't look like a restaurant. But it doesn't have to be this way. Try and arrange seats or tables to create the outline plan of a number of different connected rooms, shapes, corridors, doorways, or communal areas. Establish clearly what each shape is. Could be the waiting room, surgery, reception desk, lobby with a coffee machine, an office, and so on. Learners can take the roles of people doing different things in all the separate locations. One thing I recommend is you establish that you're doing this outside of the classroom before entering. And finally, mingling, which is my favorite type of organizational setting, because this really helps me build an atmosphere that is conducive to conversation. When you have a task where learners must mingle, meet, and talk with a number of different people, clear the desks, clear the tables to one side of the room to create a party space. Turn on some suitable music, as this will help to create an atmosphere and may encourage the quieter ones to speak up, realizing that they're less likely to be overheard. You could even serve imaginary drinks, or hell, even real ones. This type of setting also encourages prompting, rephrasing, and recasting, because students need to know. And in closing, a final note. Try to avoid the danger of sameness. If students always do the same or similar activities in the same seats, with the same people, in the same classroom layout, in the same seating arrangement, there's a real danger of sameness about everything, and hence boredom and lack of commitment. One activity simply blends into the next. So try to remember the next time that you think about how you want to seat students in an activity. And one more final seating arrangement that you could look into, because it will take too long to explain in this video, is one of my personal favorites, because you can use this type of arrangement in the traditional rows and columns type of seating. It's called a scoot, S-C-O-O-T. And if you Google how to search by Kaizen Teaching, you'll find 2 videos that'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It's the single best thing I do in my classroom, and it gets students moving without having to move anything else. So go find that, have a look, and let me know what you think. Good luck, guys. In closing, try to think, which of the classroom layouts would you like to try tomorrow with your students? What activity would you use with them? Are there any layouts here that you would never consider using? Why?